Howdy, folks. I know it's been probably 2 or 3 weeks since I've done anything for YouTube. I have had a few ideas here and there, but haven't really had the time to follow through on anything. And I've also been neglecting it a little and getting some other things done around the house as far as yard work, cleaning, the things we all have to do every day. So, originally tonight, I thought I would do a Mr. Negativity, or maybe two of them. That was my original plan. And I thought that maybe things needed more than 2 to 3 minutes to talk about and complain in that fun-loving Mr. Negativity kind of way. And then I thought, well, maybe things need more than that, and I debated, and then I thought maybe I could do a Meet the Creator, because I've not done one of those in a very long time. However, I haven't really created a whole lot lately. Gotten some things done and accomplished, but nothing really creative. Unless digging up weeds is creative, and I'm pretty sure that isn't. It's just a task, a chore, a wonderful thing that we all love to do. However, I have been observing the world more, as I'm sure you all have too. And sometimes there are some things that are really uplifting lately. Unfortunately, there are more things that are disheartening lately. I guess it's just the way the world is right now, with this pandemic and violence and all those such positive things, as Mr. Negativity would probably say, in a sarcastic way. But before I get to things that are negative or disheartening, there have also been good things. Friends of mine who have been dating for years recently got engaged. During all this bullshit that's going on, this pandemic, and all this terrible stuff, two people were able to get engaged and commit fully to each other. And that's something wonderful. It's something beautiful that no matter how bad things are, love can win. And that's something I think we all need to remember, because it helps. It keeps us going, knowing that love can win and positivity can win. I think that's something a lot of us have forgotten about, or at least forget about from time to time. I forget about it from time to time. Probably more often than other people. But luckily I am reminded of it. And that's a good thing, because that's not even a word. But anyways, then once you're reminded of it, you can try to keep yourself reminded of it. Look around, see things, share happy news. And then that helps to remind you when you share those kinds of things. So that is one good thing that I've personally heard. Bad things. The pandemic is still going on. Where I live, in Pennsylvania, numbers are improving. It is getting better. And the county where I am, we've gone to what's being referred to as the green phase. Not that green is normal by any stretch of the imagination, but it's closer to normal than yellow or red. I was hopeful that when we went green, movie theaters would open, restaurants would open, and things like that. Restaurants because, well, as you've probably noticed, I'm not a small person. And I do miss going to restaurants, especially my weekly lunch with my dad. One of the things I miss the most. Also, seeing friends, going to movies. So, we went green. I've since visited, I believe, 5 restaurants. I've eaten at 2 because only 2 are currently doing sit-down dining still. And personally, I'm not much for grabbing something at a restaurant and taking it home. I like to sit there and enjoy my meal. I do think it's a good idea that people are going and doing that to keep the restaurants going. And I have tried, but I cannot get to that point. Luckily, 2 of the places that I've went are restaurants that also have other shops like with them, or are like also a store, deli, whatever with them. So I've helped to support them that way. So green was a bit disappointing to me. Even the zoo. The zoo did reopen, but you have to schedule in advance. And that's not too much of a pain for the average people. The average person. We can tell it's after midnight when I'm doing this. Oh, and by the way, I'm outside because it's significantly cooler out here than in my house. And it's not too loud because it is after midnight. But I'm not really a kind of plan to go to the zoo person. Occasionally I will, but it's much more of a spur of the moment kind of thing. So maybe in the next week or 2 I will plan to go to the zoo, because that's also something else I really miss. It's just a nice little thing to go do and enjoy. And for me, I can go to the zoo and just watch the sea lions for anywhere between 5 minutes to an hour and just be perfectly happy and content and always right with the world. I try to do more of the zoo than just that, but some days if it's really hot out, I just go and I'm just watch the sea lions for a while, and we'll maybe hit the aqua zoo because it's indoors and air conditioned. And on the real hot days, that's about all I do. But that's just silly stuff about me. So maybe this does qualify as a meet the creator. I'm not quite sure. It is, I guess, meeting the creator. It's just not really talking about creating much. And kind of talking about the world in general also. So hopefully soon, the few places that I've went to restaurant-wise that are kind of open will fully open. And that will bring great joy to me. Something that's bad. Yesterday, Father's Day, a friend of mine lost a father figure because of this virus. Not the first person I've known to lose someone. And I should be happy because I myself have lost no direct friends or family members from this virus. But she is probably the I don't know, 6th, 7th person that I know personally that has lost at least one person. Others have lost a lot more. And while that doesn't sound like a huge number to most of you, 6 or 7 people that I know is significant because I'm not the most social person. It's probably somewhere between 25% of the folks I know, well, maybe even 35% of the folks I know, or at least interact with on a regular basis. Regular meaning every other day or so, every third day. By that definition, I would say it's a third of the people I know have lost at least one person, if not more. Some have lost very close friends. Some have lost people who are closer to acquaintances. But still, a third of the folks I know have lost someone that they know. And something else that's bad or sad or however you want to put it. It just is, in all honesty. It just is. Things like that aren't really bad. They just are. And even I inappropriately call them bad, when really they should be looked upon as sad or heartbreaking. Because they just are. Personally, I don't look at death as a good or bad thing. It just is. It's a part of life. A lesson I learned very early in life. I believe I was about... Sorry about the distraction. The only thing about being outside is there are bugs. Back to where I was going. When I was about 5, my grandfather died. So I learned very early in life about death. And from the age 5 to about 10 or 11, maybe 11, I'm not sure. if I missed a day of school, it was due to a funeral. And on the average, I missed, 4 to 8 days a year. That doesn't mean there were necessarily 4 to 8 funerals, but that means that I went to calling hours that many times. So I learned very early that death is simply part of this existence that we have. Not good or bad, just a part of. So, see if I can think of something good. Something good. Tonight, we had a cookout. It was nice. My dad came up for Father's Day. It's very enjoyable. Although, to be honest, it would have been nicer to go out for lunch somewhere. But it was a fun thing. It was nice. And I'm also lucky because my parents have been divorced for 30 plus years. And initially, they may not have gotten along all that well, but they were always able to be mature adults around me. And I was very demanding that my dad was always here for holidays. Initially, and ever since then. And after a few years, my parents actually were able to become friends again. So that's something that's really nice. Is I'm one of those people that does have divorced parents, but they get along. They're friends. Occasionally, they actually go out and do things together. I'm not sure if I would how well they would do together for more than 3 to 4 hours. I'm sure at that point they would both remember why they got divorced. But that is something nice, something positive. It's something that I know I'm lucky to have, because I know other folks who have parents who are divorced and they do not get along at all. And I feel bad for them, and I can't understand why two adults can't get along for a little while with each other. Maybe it's because examples I have in my life of divorce, I'd say the great majority of them, people can still get along with each other and be friends. Not initially normally, but they can still do that. So, other negative things. Still more violence. Still more people being murdered. Some being murdered by police. Some just being murdered by other people. The ones I'm talking about are those in the past few weeks who have been murdered during riots. Let me emphasize, those who have been murdered during riots. During peaceful protest, people don't get murdered. Peaceful protests are actually a really good idea. They are one of the most effective ways to get things changed. And yes, sometimes they do inconvenience us. A peaceful protest might be people sitting down and blocking an intersection for a little while. Normally, those times have something to do with what they're protesting. Yes, they are inconveniencing, but they're not painful or evil. They're an inconvenience. And a lot of the times they're inconveniencing us so that we can understand how they or the victim was inconvenienced. Because some of us need to be reminded of that. And some things are much more than inconvenienced. Death is much more than inconvenience. So are other things. But death, much, much more than inconvenience. Many violent crimes are much, much more than an inconvenience. In fact, I'd venture to say that any violent crime is much more than an inconvenience. And it would be really nice if people would start to realize that. That if you get abused, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a real fucking problem. Not an inconvenience. Because with most abuse, all abuse, to my knowledge, actually, let me correct myself, all abuse, you don't just suddenly put on a happy face and become all over it, or get over it, sorry. It takes a while. You have to heal, you have to go through the process. So maybe, in general, if we could look at crimes, especially violent crimes, as more than an inconvenience, that'd be really helpful. Maybe we could all get on the same page, or maybe at least in the same book, or better yet, minimal, if we could all just be on the same chapter. Yeah, that would be nice if we could all be on the same chapter. But hell, at this point, I'd accept if we could all be at least looking at the same book. Just, hey, look, there's the book. I don't even care if we open it or not yet. Just look at it, acknowledge, that's the book. Maybe we should read it. Maybe we should get to it. I'm sure there's something else good that's going on right now. At the second, it's not coming to me. But since I can't remember anything else good that's going on right now, I'm not going to go any further with things that are bad that are going on right now either. I'd rather just keep this kind of balanced. And even though I may have said it earlier, it's worth repeating. Because honestly, I'm not sure if I said it or not earlier. But Mr. Negativity, you know, Mr. Negativity has 2 rules. Rule number 1, don't intentionally hurt or harm anyone else. And I do realize there are unintentional hurts and harms. But that is still rule number 1. Rule number 2, have fun. Enjoy your life. The problem with rule number 2 sometimes, and why it's rule number 2 and not rule number 1, is because we forget about rule number 1 already. That's why it will never be rule number 1 for me. But it's number 2, so it's high. And for me, I only have 2. So they're a little easier to remember. Not always easier to follow, but easier to remember. And it would be really great if sometime between now and when I leave this little blue-green ball, as TV has referred to it, the 3rd rock, if I could maybe change my order of rules, that'd be a really nice thing. I'm not gonna lie and say I think it's gonna happen. But I don't think it's impossible. It might not be realistic, but I don't think it's impossible. So, until next time, and hopefully that is sooner than last time, take care of yourself. Take care of someone else if you can. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Bye.